Once Fred's got recording. All right, we're recording. What is up, Zoom land? All right, cool. So my name is Pete. For anybody who maybe doesn't know, I've been in business for about 8 years. And just recently, this past when was it, June? We went to this conference, and I had actually never gone to an actual real estate conference. I hadn't gone. Don't send this to KW corporate, but I haven't gone to any of the KW events. I mean, I went to the NJ1 in Atlantic City earlier this year, but my first like real conference. And the things that I found that I took away were, to me, honestly, not to overstate it, but they changed the way I see everything right now, right? They changed the way I look at things. It made a huge impact on me. So when I got back, I'm all jacked up, right? We're always all jacked up when we get back from a conference or any kind of thing, even a vacation, right? So when I got back, just as chance would have it, they asked me if I would put a class on, because I follow a system called Profit First, which is more for financials. But from what I heard at this conference, I thought it was really important that I bring the message that I heard and what resonated with me back here to all of you, right?
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's just jump right into it. So who here wrote a business plan this year? Raise your hand if you had a business plan this year. No shame, no worries if we didn't write a business plan. Who here set goals in the beginning of the year? All right, cool. So at least we were setting goals. And when did you last look at those goals that you wrote in?
As soon as I wrote it.
Last time
Yeah.
you wrote them,
Right.
right?
I like that.
So that's it. So that's what we tend to do, right? We tend to write out these plans in January 1. We put out everything that we want to do. And then we don't look at them again, right? And we certainly probably don't look at them every day. But can we all agree that this is the reason we get up every day, right? These are the things that we do. We intentionally write our goals out. We write our business plan. We should spend time to actually break it down and write out what we're going to do or intend to do every single day. So I think we can all agree that it's important to write out our goals and to look at them every single day. So I'm gonna, before we really get into the business plan, and if you don't have it, it's available on Facebook. And then I don't know if we have any more copies here. And I would encourage a piece of paper or something else to write down some more notes. But before we really go into like the nuts and bolts and breaking down dollars and cents and ratios and all these things, it's important that we get our minds right, right? So I have a couple of notes, like I said, that I'm just going to kind of share. So I can't take full credit for all this stuff that I'm going to share with you, but I'm sharing my interpretation and the things that I really took away. One of them is the best of the best treat their minds like a muscle that should be exercised and worked every single day, right? If we were to draw a line, right, straight across, this is where we quit, right? This is, if you can visualize a line, this is our quitting line. And are we above the quitting line or are we below the quitting line, right? And we face things every single day that push us below that quit line, right? They make us wonder what we're doing. Why are we doing this? So what are things that we can do to keep our mindset strong, right? We're often not talked about our mindset and what we can do to keep our mindset strong. Is there anybody who has something that they've used in the past or maybe do regularly that helps keep their mindset up and keep us above that quit line? Anybody have any suggestions, thoughts?
Daily affirmations.
Affirmations.
I was doing daily, now I'm doing weekly.
Okay.
So I focus on this one thing every week.
I love it. I do affirmations every morning. Yeah, they're important. Anything else?
Cut out certain news stations.
Huge. And even on Instagram or Facebook or social media as a whole, right? Something that I've started implementing is an Instagram audit, where I'll look at something and I'll try to realize, is this making me feel good? Or is this making me feel bad about myself or the situation or creating this pending doom, right? That's kind of seems to always follow us. So when I feel that way, I unfollow or I hide the post or whatever it is, because we have to protect our mindset. Meditation. Anybody here try meditation? I say try, right? Because it's challenging. Guided meditations are really huge though, just to kind of get started and being patient with yourself. What about podcasts? Anybody have a favorite real estate podcast that they listen to regularly? Right, there you go. What do you got? You got a recommendation?
Yeah, it's like two ladies, but it's Hustle Humbly, I listen to that.
Awesome. See, I've got like 5 or 6 that I listen to. I've never heard of that. So there's tons and tons of podcasts out there that when you're starting to feel, am I good enough? Am I gonna make it? Can I make this other call? What are we doing to protect our mindset and get ourselves back above that quit line, right? And really stay above that and get to the thrive line is really where we want to be going. So those are just some things that we can use to exercise our brain. Short-term memory. I know that the top producers do it because there's a top producer who said this to me. And he's right here in this office. He's not here today, but Sean N. And he said, one of our greatest superpowers as individuals and as real estate salespeople is short-term memory. Being able to let those things, when a deal falls through, when a seller lists with somebody else, when a buyer, ghosts you, short-term memory, on to the next one, right? If we can learn to keep our mindset strong, it helps with our short-term memory and we can just keep moving. Then we couple that with our goals, right? That we're reviewing every single day, our business plan. We're remembering this is why we're keeping our mindset strong. You guys with me? All this makes sense so far? Cool. Momentum, right? We know that who here has, again, no judgments. Who here is either makes calls every day or has attempted to make cold calls, has said, you know what, I get it. I know I got to make cold calls and I got to do it, right? And you start to do it, right? And it's so hard to get those first calls in, right? Can we agree that's hard to get that going? But then you get a call and somebody has a pretty decent conversation, right? And then you're like, okay, this isn't so bad. Let me go a little bit longer, right? And then you have another good conversation and you're like, okay, some dude hangs up on you, but you're like, whatever, we had a couple good ones. That's momentum, right? And that's what builds every single day. And we need to keep our mindset strong to stay on that momentum, because once we start momentum, watch out, guys, the sky is the limit. 2005, let's say mid 2000s, we know that about 40% of the realtors left the business when the business shifted. That's a big number, guys. And can we all agree we're experiencing a little bit of a shifting market right now? Things are starting to change. Things have been a little wonky lately. Well, I'm here to tell you that your competition is not in a meeting like this. Your competition is, their mindset isn't strong right now, right? They're not in a classroom right now trying to figure out just 1 or 2 ways to get better today, right? So you guys are already ahead of your competition. There's a huge opportunity here for all of us in this room, for the ones that choose to accept it, to grow market share in this business, to double down on our business and be looking at this time next year, unbelievable, like not even able to believe who we are. And I know that because I've done it, because I'm here. I can't believe I get to speak in front of all of you today. To me, it's an honor and a privilege, one that I didn't think I was worthy of a year ago, 2 years ago. So I say this to say, I know it, right? This is where we're headed if we choose to do the things that we need to do. So with that being said, I mean, we're talking about our competition, we're talking about mindset. Can we agree that we're all here today and we're going to take 1 or 2 things that we can implement, right? That we can put into play? Can we all agree with that? Say yes.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Awesome. So, because we know if we don't do this, why are we here? We could, let's be down the shore. Let's go hang out. But we're not going to do that, right? We're going to implement 1 or 2 things. So we all talked about, right? We haven't worked from a plan yet, right? So let's figure out 11 steps, right? 11 steps to working with a plan. And I would write these down. Okay, so a business plan overall, this is, you can write this down if you choose, but a business plan is not about tracking and measuring, right? We know that a business plan is the difference between a professional and an amateur, right? Are we going to hope every single day that we hit our goals, or are we going to work every single day to make sure we're hitting our goals? So step 1, 11 steps to operating from a plan. Actually write it out. So actually writing out the plan is the first step to working from a plan. And that's what we're going to go through today. Now, my goal today is to give you a guideline to point you in the right direction. This may not be the best business plan for you, but these are going to give you some things to think about. And there's tons of plans out there. Fred can absolutely help you plan out your goals with your business planning, all those kinds of things. But we're going to actually start by writing it out. Step number 2, Review it with a mentor or a coach. Who's someone that you have in your life that you want them to help you stay accountable? Accountability doesn't necessarily mean yelling at you when you don't do what you're supposed to do. Accountability can be as simple as when you wake up in the morning, you text them that you're up. And they expect that text message from you every single day. And when they don't send you that text message, that person is going to respond and say, hey, bro, you up? Hey, you up? Right? That is very simple amount of accountability. It doesn't have to be this big thing that we make it out to be. Step number 3, we must be willing to make adjustments. Must be willing to make adjustments. Because we know things change, things happen in life, things happen in business. We need to be able to be flexible and to make adjustments as we move along. And that's what today is about.
You gotta give it time though too, right?
I'm sorry.
I said you gotta give it time too, right? Cause I feel like I'm guilty of this too. Like I'll have a good idea. I'll try it for like 3 days or like a week, and then I'll have another good idea, right?
You're in the right place, man. We're gonna go over that today. We're gonna go over that in a little bit. But yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, for sure. Step number 4, make multiple physical copies. Multiple physical copies. Okay, that was, what was that, 5, right?
4.
4, okay. Step number 5 is share those copies with family and key business associates. I'm accepting copies of business plans, just so you guys know. If you guys need someone to give a business plan to, I'm here. But we've also got our leadership team, right? We've got other colleagues who we respect within the business. We have our family, our friends, who are people that, you know, we're letting them know we're drawing the line in the sand. This is what we intend to do this year. Step number 6, create a vision board of your unreal life. I have to TM that, Jeff Glover, because that's where I got Unreal Life from. And we'll talk a little bit about Unreal Life and what that looks like. Step number 7, review your plan and live Unreal Formula weekly. Which is, we'll talk. Sure, yep. Review your plan, so your business plan, and your live Unreal Formula weekly. Step number 8, identify your daily activities. I want to dig a little deeper on what that means. So that's number 8, identify your daily activities. Everybody caught up? Everybody good? So when we say identify our daily activities, right? We know that we have these big things that we want to accomplish, right? Maybe it's add 500 people into our database before the end of the year. So that's a huge thing to take on, right? It just seems almost impossible. But what if you took that and you said, okay, how many weeks are left in this year, right? How many contacts do I have to do and put in my CRM every single day? And clearly define what a completed contact is, right? Is that a phone number? Is that an email? Is it a home address? Is it an email? Like, what does that clearly look like? Too many times we're like, we need to make contacts. What's a contact? Does anybody have a definition for what they consider to be a contact?
A back and forth about business.
Back and forth about business. Anybody else have what they consider a contact? That's not my, that can be your definition. That can be my definition. It could be anybody. That's up to you guys to decide. Yeah.
Someone they have either some form of relationship with,
Could be.
whether it's business or friend or
Could be.
family.
And you, like, phone number, email, that would be contact.
So that would be completed contacting in
Yeah.
your CRM.
Their address, yeah.
Gotcha.
Or it's anyone that I have any information about, either name, phone number, email, any basic, or even potentially know about.
Okay,
That's a contact.
there you go. So now you can look in your CRM and say, how many completed contacts do I have based on what I define a completed contact? And what your marketing strategy, what your business plan is, will dictate what is considered to be a complete contact, right? If you're big on email marketing, does it really matter if you have phone numbers? No, it matters that you have emails. If you're big on calls and follow-ups and DTD2, yeah, the other is important, is nice to have, it's important in email, but you're really focusing on phone numbers. I mean, we want to have as much in the database as possible, obviously, but what is a completed contact? It's important to define those and review them every single day. Okay, step number 9. Meet with someone monthly to review performance versus your plan. Meet with someone monthly to review your performance versus your plan. We have so many people. I believe we're among the best agents in the business here. We have so many people that are willing to help each other out, help you grow. Reach out to those people, because guess what? By you reaching out to them, you're also helping them. And if they don't see that, they're probably not a great fit. But reach out. Who can you connect with and grow with? Step number 10. We have to create awareness around our deficits and be aware of them every single day. We need to create awareness around our deficits and be aware of them every single day. So what does that mean? Maybe we need to work on our scripts, right? Maybe we realize we're not picking up the phone because our listing presentation isn't nailed down, and oh my God, what happens if I actually set that appointment, right? Did you guys know that most people actually don't make calls because they're more afraid of what if they actually get the appointment? Right?
Performance anxiety.
Performance, exactly, right? Oh my gosh, what if I actually set the appointment? Well, there's no reason that should stop you, first of all, because there are plenty of agents here with experience that would be happy to help you go on the appointment if you need to. Better to get half of an appointment than no appointment. But then we identify, okay, we need to get better at our sales skills. We need to get better at our presentation skills, because that affects our call skills. So we can get better on our call skills, but we also need to have our presentation skills, right? So what are some things that we can identify as our deficits that we can work on every single day? And again, maybe it's just recording your listing presentation. Record yourself doing it. Listen to yourself when you're on the car, in the car on the way here. Again, record yourself doing scripts and dialogues, role play with people. These are just sales things, but these are just different things that can help you, get better every single day. And number 11 is flip the switch at the start of every day to 0. For me, I have an affirmation. And every morning I say, every morning or every day that I am alive, I am reborn, right? It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It doesn't matter what happened 5 years ago. It doesn't matter what happened, the night before. Every day is a new day. You have a new opportunity. You wipe the slate clean. Maybe you missed your calls yesterday. Maybe you didn't do the follow-ups. Like, it doesn't matter. Today is a new day. Make it a great one.
What actor do you say does that?
Actor?
Did you say there's an actor who does that every day?
Is that, Matthew? No.
No.
Who does what every day?
Starts 0, like forgets everything that he's accomplished.
McConaughey said
It could be
Maybe
McConaughey.
it's him, yeah.
Yeah. But again, these are all like that script, that affirmation. I probably did get it from somebody, but I don't even remember who, because I'm trying to take in so much different stuff. Could be McConaughey, could be Ed Milet, it could be a ton of different.
No, go ahead. You can't read, let me know.
All right, so one of the things I just want to leave you guys with, and I would break this down to, is understanding that you can't control your first thought, but you can control your second thought.
He's gonna explain.
Right, so you can't control your first thought, but you can always control your second thought. It's funny, Julia Gaffney, when we were in one of the meetings, she said she has a small funeral, I think she said, right? So when something goes wrong, something doesn't pan out right, or maybe someone responds to us in a certain way, we're always going to have our first reaction. We're human beings, right? But what can we do to control our second thought? The first step is acknowledging that we couldn't control the first thought. But what are we going to do about the second thought? You choose, you make a choice. I believe you make a choice in how you handle every situation. If you're in a good mood right now, you're making a choice to be in a good mood. If you're in a bad mood right now, that's a choice. So we can't control how we're feeling initially, but we can acknowledge how we're feeling, how we're receiving something, and make a change. And we can do that with strong mindsets and constantly building barriers around ourselves. All right, now, one other thing I want to get into, that I took away from this conference that I thought was super impactful, and then we'll dive into this is the live unreal formula. Or unreal life formula. So, and basketball fans here, everybody knows who Michael Jordan is, right? Everybody know who Kobe Bryant is?
Yeah.
Does everyone know who Phil Jackson is? Somewhat, for the most part, right? Okay. So a couple of interesting things is Michael Jordan, right? Clearly one of the best basketball players of all time. Sick athlete, freak of nature, amazing player, right? Between 1984 and 1988, the best player in basketball, arguably the best basketball player to ever live, went 84 and 88. He had a losing record as an individual with the most talent in the entire NBA, but arguably the entire world. But then what happened? He met Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson showed up and they beat the Pistons, who they couldn't get past previous years, and the rest was history. The rest became Michael Jordan as we know Michael Jordan and the Bulls of the 90s, right? We all know who those people are. The same thing happened with Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, again, now a new, amazing talent, fresh new talent in the NBA, was mediocre as an individual. Enter Phil Jackson, all of a sudden he's a superstar. How does that happen, right? Because we need our who's. Coach, right? A coach. Who are some other who's, right? Colleagues, other people, our family, friends in this room, out of this room. I have friends now across in other states that I'm leaning on to be my who, right? And I talked about this at the sales rally, but what I learned after leaving this conference was that when I failed at accountability before, it was because I was expecting too much of one person, and they were expecting too much of me because I was promising too much, right? Keep me. These are all the things I want to do every single day, right? I want to make 50 phone calls. I want to, go on at least one listing appointment. I want to wake up at 5 a.m. I want to eat right. I want to do all these things, right? And we should want to be the absolute best versions of ourselves. And that's more than just business. That's health, wealth, relationships, like all of these things. But no one person can hold you accountable to all those things. So what if you went wide instead of deep? What if you said, hey, can you hold me accountable to waking up at 5 a.m. every morning? Is that okay? Can I text you every morning and just let you know when I'm up?
Absolutely.
Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you just at the end of the week ask me on a scale from 1 to 10 how was my eating habit this week? Good. These are the things. Hey, can you ask me every day? If I don't send you a photo of my watch of me sitting in front of the computer, can you just text me and ask me if everything's okay? Like these things have made a absolute, without a doubt, impact in my life, the way I'm showing up every single day, because I know if I don't send that, Fred's going to be there like, said you're going to do it.
How many people do you have?
So right now I have 5, let's say 5 or 6 people. I meet with somebody once a month now. We meet with our coach. It's important to build all of these people around you, and you don't really have to ask of all that much, right? Is it that much to ask of Nazir to be like, hey, just so you know, I'm trying to get up at 5 a.m. every morning. If I don't text you, like those are easy things. And maybe, look, I think the other thing I want to talk about with accountability and finding your who as well is that it's not always the right place in their lives or the right time. And it might not be the right time in your life to be an accountability partner for somebody else. Which again, if we aim for 10 and we get 5 good accountability partners, the win in my book. So finding your who's are super important. Let me just see, I have something else here. Okay, so what are some traits that you should look for in a who, right? What are some things? Who should help you focus on your unique ability and achieve your goals? They should broaden your vision and expand your efficacy, right? They should expand what you believe is possible and what you believe you can actually do. So, all right. So we talked about some of the who's. We talked about same thing: podcast, coaches, friends and family, colleagues in and out of the States. Yeah. So we're all good there. All right, cool. So now we're gonna go on to the live unreal formula. And again, this is Jeff Glover, right? I want to give him all the credit in the world. This is stuff that I learned from somebody else, but I'm also here to tell you, Jeff learned it from somebody else. And that person that taught it to Jeff learned it from somebody else. So don't ever feel like you can't teach somebody else something that somebody else taught you. That's how it works, right? All right, so on the bottom here, so you got your piece of paper, draw out 5 boxes just like this. This exercise will change some stuff.
Is it in here? or-
It's not in there, so if you can turn to a blank page.
It's not in there now. No, do you have any more of these?
No,
No. Here, somebody could have mine. I'm writing things that, who wants mine? I could go make a copy. It's all right.
That's all right, French. If you got a pen, yeah, whatever.
would you mind making a copy for me too, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't need a copy.
All right, everybody got their boxes drawn? So
Just a reminder, this is being recorded, so you'll be able to go back and review it. On your own.
circles, is that okay?
That's fine.
I'm always.
That was.
Yeah, draw straight lines.
Trademark. There you go.
All right, guys. So on the bottom box here, we're gonna write money / basic needs. Now, again, guys, this is not something that we're gonna expect to actually break down every single thing. You guys know all your numbers and all that stuff right off the bat, right? This is intended for you to, learn, understand, and then take with you and choose whether or not this is the right exercise for you to do. So money and basic needs. So here we're gonna write down, what's the bare minimum we need, right? What is the bare minimum to pay our bills, our mortgage, or our rent, or our car payments, our food, our clothing, all the things that are just absolutely essential. What does that number look like? And I would encourage anybody who maybe doesn't have that number in their head right now, figure that out and keep that with you. Remember that, because I mean, for us, it's always been something that we can kind of go back to and just have on our mind. So next is transaction goal. So moving up, how many transactions? I don't write copy, so. Transaction goal. Transaction goal. But how many what's our transaction goal? How many goals, how many homes do we want to sell this year? When you started out this year, what was that number that you put down on that piece of paper, right? No teachers laughing back there, I know what you're trying to do. All right, so when you wrote down that transaction goal, what was your why? Why did you write down that transaction goal? What was your purpose? What were you looking to accomplish? Who here has an idea of what their why is? Doesn't have to be crystal clear, changes every day. Maybe not every day, but it changes, right? So we have a pretty good idea. Now listen, there's a whole other class, finding your why, for sure. It's not easy, but I would encourage everybody to continue on that journey to find your why. Because when you find it, it's pretty powerful. Okay, so everyone with me so far? Next, this is where it got really real for me, right? And now let's think about this. So we know what our money and our basic needs are. We know what our transaction goal is, and we know why we want to do it. The next question is, when you become the best version of yourself, who benefits? When you become the best version of yourself, who benefits? Everyone? Do I benefit from you becoming the best version of yourself? I don't know, you tell me.
Good share.
You could. Is that what, but that's where, so, right, when we first look at this at face value, who benefits from becoming the best version of ourselves? Right? And when I was sitting there in that conference room or whatever event space, I was thinking, okay, well, this was my train of thought, and I'll share this with you guys. My first thought was, well, obviously I benefit, I could probably get that Mustang that I always wanted. I could probably, move into that next spot. We could probably go to Italy. So Ash would benefit from that, right? That'd be cool. So Ash and I benefit. My mom benefits, right? I could retire my mom. I could take care of, my brothers and my nieces if I hit my goal. Oh, that's pretty cool. And then I started thinking, I was like, well, if I'm doing all these deals that I want to do, I guess my lender benefits. It's a couple of my lenders benefit, I guess, my home inspectors, my attorneys. That's a bigger impact than I really thought. But what about if I could maybe start a team? What if I could start a team and I could actually learn everything that I'm learning, things that I'm growing, and I can actually share that? What if I could go back to the market center and teach a class to help people find their unrealized? That's the train of thought that I had. And now here I am. And I hope you're getting something from this, right? That's my goal. But when you really start thinking about it, right now, your lenders, their families can start to benefit. And then it just keeps going the more you give. So then I started thinking, wow, okay, so now when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, man, I really don't want to make my calls. I really don't want to do these things. I'm like, now I'm thinking, well, am I going to give up on my mom? Am I going to give up on my dreams, on the people who could benefit 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 levels deep? Hell no, I'm not going to do that. And now all of a sudden somebody telling me no or go scratch, that's easy. It becomes real easy when you get real crystal clear. So then the top is, what does my unreal life look like? Which I think I kind of just when we talk about an unreal life, the definition, as Jeff says, for an unreal life is a life so amazing, it's almost unbelievable. A life so amazing, it's almost unbelievable. As I shared with you earlier in this, man, I mean, I didn't say this, but when I first started in this business, I don't know if I should say this. When I first started in this business, there was nothing that frustrated me more than other real estate agents. I didn't think there was any place to collaborate. I didn't think there was any real, God, they're always doing this and doing that, blah, blah, blah. You want to start a team? Hell no. Would you ever open a brokerage? Absolutely not. But the more I've pulled on this thread, the more great people I've gotten around, the more I've realized that this industry is amazing and it's given me so much. If you guys knew where I was 5, 6, 7 years ago to where I am now, I'm a different person. And it's by following these things without even really knowing I was doing it. So imagine now, if you get crystal clear, I'd be willing to bet all of you in this room can look at your previous versions of yourself, maybe even a month ago, right? And you're a better version of yourself today without even really thinking about it. So what if we got really crystal clear on these buckets? Where's the sky? Where's the limit? All right, guys. So everybody good on the same page?
Yeah.
Understand business planning mindset? Everybody's good? Any questions before we move into the business plan? Everybody has the business plan.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so why is this important, right? As I mentioned earlier, the market's shifting, right? There's no surprise there. We're starting to see a change in things, and we know that our competition is not buckling down and getting crystal clear on their goals and what they're going to do every single day, right? We know that in the mid-2000s, the majority, a good portion of the business left, and now is your opportunity. I believe, this is my belief, that between now and the beginning of next year is going to determine a lot of real estate agents' future. They're going to be, when renewal comes in at the end of the year, there's going to be a lot of people who are saying, nah, it's not HGTV. It was fun during COVID. I threw a house on the market. Now I actually have to make cold calls. Now I actually have to get my skills up, and they're gonna leave, right? But by buckling down and staying focused, we're gonna outperform them and we're gonna gain market share. And I believe everybody in this room can do that. Okay, so why is it important? We talked about it before. your business plan that you build, that you bring right now, it can change, it can adjust. But please print it out, make multiple copies. Your business plan should look like this. It should look sloppy, it should have coffee stains on it, it should be folded and crumpled up, you should be stuffing it in between, you should have it in front of you every single day. Who knows what it means to know your numbers?
Hold yourself accountable.
Okay, hold yourself accountable. So what does that mean? Like when I say, do you know your numbers?
Yeah, so it's about following your systems, right?
Tracking and
Yeah.
knowing where you're at, right?
Yeah,
Does everybody here track their numbers? Do you know your numbers? Awesome.
Yeah.
What numbers are you tracking, right? So that's what we're gonna go into. And I honestly, I didn't track my numbers up until probably about a month ago. I did not track my numbers and I didn't even really understand what tracking your numbers meant, right? Does it mean my sale price? Does it mean this? Does it mean that? What I'm tracking now are my daily activities. How many attempts am I making? How many contacts am I making? Who am I making those contacts with? And the reason for that, I'll get into in a minute. All right, so everybody can see the business plan, part one. So when we go through part one of the business plan, what we're looking at is our first 6-month production results, right? So what have we done in the first half of the year as far as it relates to total contacts, right? So we talked a little bit about what a contact is, but are we doing that in terms of phone calls, right? Or interactions, right? So for me, a contact is an interaction with a decision-making adult, right? So when I make a cold call and I call the neighborhood and someone says, and I say, hey, this is Pete with Keller Williams, we're just calling blah, 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 and they hang up on me. That is not a contact. When they say who, I just made a contact. It's really that simple, right? We're just trying to go through numbers. We're just trying to have 1 or 2 people say yes a day. If they say who and hang up, that's a contact to me. Now, someone else may define a contact differently. That's okay. That's up to you to decide. So total contacts, pretty straightforward, defining what a contact is. Knowing what your average daily contacts are. How many client events are you hosting, right? Total database touches. Who here is a database agent? Who here gets the most of their business from their database? Okay. So how often are you touching them every single week, month, year, right? Do we have a plan in place for that? If you have one, you can say it. I don't know if you do.
I mean, it depends kind of like how ready they have to go. Like if they have someone that said they're ready to go in September, so like I'm gonna start ramping up, more to every 2 or 3 weeks, where it's just kind of like a light reach out to see if they're good. But it's been 9 months. I didn't want to call them every 2 weeks.
No, of
To
course.
bother them, so
Of
it's kind of
course.
like more separated and spread out. So
Right. And now we know that database is more important than ever when it comes to increasing our transactions. So in the MREA, it says 33, well, it's 33, 36, whatever it is, right? And so how many are you doing emails? Are you doing pop buys? Are you sending postcards? Are you making phone calls, DTM2, right? What systems do we have in place to make sure that we're touching our database X amount of times every single year? And this is where we track it, right? And then new contacts added to database. So every time you meet somebody, are you putting them in your database, right? Do you have and we'll get into goals a little bit, but do you have an idea of how many people you're adding to your database every single day or year or month or whatever it is, whatever that is? Now, a real easy way to track that is to open Command or whatever CRM you use today, right now, well, not right now, after the class, and see how many people you have in there. And then in a month from now, see how many people you have in there. And did you add or subtract, right? So then we move on to listing appointments, but any questions on that part so far? Pretty straightforward, right? Next is listing appointments, right? Listing appointments set versus listing appointments met. Right? So we know, right, that we need to set more listing appointments than we go on, right? Everybody agree with that? That we know that there's going to be a fallout. Now we know that if our source of business is from our database, those conversion numbers are probably going to be higher than if we're doing FSBOs and expires and cold calls and stuff like that, right? Everybody agree with that? Cool. So then listings signed versus listings sold and listings closed, right? Then we also have buyer appointments set, buyer appointments met, and then buyer offers signed. And that's, you'll see in parentheses, it says first only. Right, because we know that when we make an offer with a buyer, we've kind of gotten to that point, right? Would we agree that the fallout rate from the time we meet a buyer to them actually writing an offer is probably higher than from when we write an offer to then getting them closed?
Mhm.
Right, that conversion changes a little bit. When we first meet them, we're just some person. And then once we kind of get that offer and now we've built that relationship a little bit stronger. Then we want to know what our total fallout rate is, total units closed, total volume closed, and total income paid year to date. And I would write a little note on that that says 1099 number, not your net number.
Pete, fallout, what do you mean by that? Total fallout?
So when we talk about listings sold to listings closed,
Uh-huh.
right? Or buyers sold to buyers closed, right? We have sold and closed, yeah. So we know, especially in a shifting market, right? I don't know if anybody here in the last month or 2 months has had a listing or a buyer that went under contract and fell out. They backed out, right? And we're seeing a lot now with listings. We're starting to see buyers put in offers and then start to back out. If you talk to some of the top listing agents in the office, I think they'll tell you the same, right? We're starting to see these offers come in and then going back to the second or third or back on market. So we want to know what that number is. Because if we know that we have a 20% fallout rate, we know that we need to increase our buyers going sold by 20%, or right, our sold buyers going up by 20%. If we know we have a 20% fallout rate, if we want to maintain the number, we know that if we wanted to close 10 buyers, right? And we knew that 20% of those buyers fall out from the time they go under contract, then we would look for, what is that, 12? Right? An extra 20% on 10 is 12, right? I'm not a math whiz.
No.
Someone
Yes.
confirm me, make me
Yes.
feel smart here, okay? So then you would do 12, right? So now now your goal is 12 buyers sold. So you need to get 12 buyers under contract to hit your closed goal of 12. That makes sense?
Just, yeah.
Exactly, it's an adjustment. So, and underneath, I tweaked some things, so it's not on your business plan, but underneath where it says total income paid. Well, let me just ask, anybody have any questions on that part of the business plan so far?
Do you have any suggestions for like how to best track some of these? Like some of them are obvious, right? Like you can go on the MLS and look up your production and
Mhm.
stuff and have that number, but. Do you have anything that you use to track some of the other
Like some of the-
miscellaneous stuff?
Yeah, or like some of the stuff that we did in the past.
Yeah, some of the stuff that you did in the past, or you talk about like fallout rate, like
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I think I thought I had my copy here, but what I did, just because we can do one of two things when we're looking at this business plan. Oh, wow, I forgot it was here. We can do one of two things while we're looking at this business plan. We can go really nuts and try to get really granular and say, oh man, how many buyers did I actually meet with? How many, I just wrote question mark. I just wrote question marks and kept going, because it's not so much of what happened in the past, right? Because I'd rather spend less time worrying about what I did and spend more time focusing on what I need to do.
Mhm.
Because then when I'm doing this again in January, when we're doing it every 6 months, now we're gonna have these numbers clear. We're gonna know, right? Because we're tracking it every single day.
Mhm.
So there's tons of different tracking things that you can, choose to do moving forward. But I think that's where you build some accountability around that, right? So I have someone right now, every Friday I send them my numbers.
Mhm.
And I just have it in a spreadsheet, and I do have, oh man, I didn't bring it with me. A daily tracking sheet that I got also from the Glover. So when I'm making my calls, I'm doing my prospecting in the morning. I have my sheet next to me. I write my name, my full name on it, Peter Kopeck Jr. I write the date, I write exactly how many contacts I intend to make, how many I actually make, appointments set. I'll send you all that stuff. And then what I do is, because we don't want to get bogged down in like the stuff every single day, right? We want to do the dollar producing activities and then keep moving. So then I'll keep that all off to the side. At the end of the week, I'll do it all in one shot. Okay. Yeah.
So I've also tried to live in the past, I try to just, make conclusions and like learn something and just take that part and forget everything else, basically. But then I try to plan for the future and I invest time now to, plan for the future.
Right.
But how much time do you actually use in a day to plan and how much time do you use to do?
We'll actually get into that. So that's a great question. So when we get to that schedule, let's bring that up again. And guys, we had this scheduled till 12:30, so I just want to make sure everybody's good with that. If you didn't see that and you have to take off at 12, I'm not offended, no worries. Okay. All right, so we're all good there. So underneath total income paid year to date, I want you to write top 3 sources. And I want you to write 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Just right under here. You just write that right in there. And this is just a note. But I want you to get super specific on where your top 3 sources of business came from in the first 6 months. Or maybe in your business overall. Maybe you go to last year's numbers because you have those tracked. And when we say get specific, right? Don't put social media. Don't just put social media because there's so many different. Was it Facebook? Was it Instagram? Was it direct messages? Was it, when a good example too is referral. I got a referral. Did you get an agent to agent referral? Did you get a referral from a vendor? Did you get a referral from someone in your sphere of influence? Or were they in your sphere of influence, right? Get super specific on where your business is coming from, because coming up, I believe in the upcoming months, it's going to be time to trim some fat. And you're going to need to know what's working and what's not. So get crystal clear on your top 3. Okay. Part 2. I do have this. Yeah, so here's proof right here. I got little circles and question marks. So no worries, no shame there. All right, so in the next part, we're gonna write year over year, or not right, but we're gonna see the year over year results, right? So that's the next part of this. Now, there's 2 things that we're gonna go over. So the year over year results, we've got new listings, on market inventory, pending sales, closed sales, and average price. All of this information is super important because we're professionals. We need to know what the market is doing. And why do we need to know what the market is doing? So this is where it ties into knowing your numbers and knowing what the market is doing, right? Because if we say we set a goal of X amount of transactions, and we see after the first 6 months, the total number of new listings that hit the market is down 30%, which it is, by the way. If we see that the average pending sale, or let's go closed sales, is down 41% right now. Think you maybe need to adjust your goal a little bit just to get even, right? So if we know based off of our numbers that, let's just say 50 contacts equals one contract, right? And we know that sales are down 30%. We know that we need to increase our contacts, right? We know that we need to increase the amount of contracts that we put in based off of our fallout rate, right? Is this all making sense? How all of this kind of ties together?
Yeah.
Makes sense? Right now, I'm not going to go into it super granular right now, but it's important to know our numbers because it's important to know where we need to make adjustments, right? In the beginning, we said part of working from a plan is knowing that you need to make adjustments, right? This is an example of when you need to make an adjustment.
And know what to do every day.
And to know what yep, absolutely. So yeah, we got to increase this number. We got to increase these contacts. I have to increase my social media posts. I need to increase my ads, whatever that is, that's working. Now there's a couple other categories, which I think you can add, you can choose to track. You don't have to necessarily, but it's something I started doing. So something I started doing just last week was for all of my buyers or potential clients who are kind of in it right now, is just recording a quick video, giving them 3 or 4 stats. How many new homes are on the market? How many closings just happened? Showing time, right? Does everybody know that showing time gives you about every 4 or 5 days, they give you an update of what the showing activity is like throughout the state of New Jersey. Did everybody know that or no?
That's not premium, that's
not premium. If you got to search a little bit, they don't like to give you that info out, but I can drop that. Somebody just remind me, I'll drop that link in the chat in the Facebook group. But you can actually see, so when your listing goes live over 4th of July weekend, and you're not getting the same activity that you were a week before or 2 weeks before, you can actually go on showing time and say, first of all, give yourself that calm down, right? Because you're like freaking out, because you're like, oh my God, it was the 4th, how did this not happen? But you can actually look and say, don't worry, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Look, showing time is telling us that showings are actually down by 10% over the 4th of July. It's normal, so we're just gonna stick it out for next week. Doesn't that position you as an expert, as a professional, right? So things that we want to track, showings, and also one other thing before I move on to that, is there's a lead and a lag, right? Is the market today the same as it was in April or May when the properties that we're seeing as comps that closed in June and July? Is it the same market? No, it's a different market. Interest rates shot up almost to 8%, since have come back down. But that freaked a lot of people out. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I certainly saw that in my business. So how are we articulating that to our clients and our consumers, right? So showing stats, you can kind of look those up to get a little bit more of a, yeah.
You said that you send a quick video to your client,
Mhm.
with, showing like how many new listings in the area.
Mhm.
What were the other 2 items?
I don't know. I'll just started it last week. I'll get you that video though. If you shoot me a text
I would
after
love
this, I'll just send you a copy of the video that I do.
Thank you.
And I do it through BombBomb and link them to my website, but you don't need all that fancy stuff. You know, you just need to be getting in front of people. You can even do it through text if you want, but video's better. So again, the idea is trying to be more on top of these numbers, right? And seeing them in real time. So some things you might want to track is showing statistics, expireds, any new expireds that are coming up, new listings that are hitting the market, price reductions, the current average 30-year rate on a mortgage, current interest rate on a 30-year mortgage, and how many homes are going under contract. You start tracking these every single week, you now become an expert and a more on track. Yeah.
So you're doing this weekly?
This is something I actually just. We muted.
Yeah, you gotta move yours.
Chris. You're on Zoom?
Yeah, I wanted to try it out, I'm sorry.
No, the thing is, I tried it so many times before from home.
Well,
It
it
never
works.
worked.
Well, it works now.
It never worked.
I'm sorry. What was the
Right?
question?
I don't know why,
You're looking at these numbers.
but
right?
it took like 10 minutes for
Mhm.
the request was going to be issued.
So again,
You're setting time aside to do this. And
Yeah,
then
and it
you're
shouldn't take-
updating your clients.
pick three. Pick three categories that you think are important. It doesn't have to be, guys, we overthink too much stuff in this business. It's a contact. I'm sorry, I don't mean like you're, but we could easily sit there and say, oh, well, is this the right stat or is that the right stat? We have to understand that they might not even answer the phone. They might not even look at it. They might not care this week about what interest rates are because they decided they're not gonna buy until next week because somebody just went to the hospital, they're going down the shore, they're not even looking at homes this week. But the idea is the consistency, right? And we're hitting them every single week. So that when they are ready to pull the trigger on something, who are they thinking of first?
Yeah.
They've got people met them at an open house. They're probably dropping emails and doing all that kind of stuff here and there sporadically, but you're hitting them every single week with market updates. You're the expert. You're the professional. You're the person that people want in a shifting market when it gets more challenging. Make sense? You guys follow me on this? All right, good. All right, so then we get into actually closed, or I'm sorry, the second half goals. A lot of these are pretty straightforward, right? And the power of knowing our numbers from before will help us set this part out. Now, if you don't have your numbers from the previous 6 months, now this is where it'll change a little bit because this is why you need to know what your main sources of business are. Because if you know what your main sources of business are, you will have a better idea of what the conversion ratios look like, right? As I mentioned earlier, I understand that the conversion on my FSBOs is gonna be different than, Ashley's aunt, right? I know Ashley's aunt isn't going anywhere. A for sale by owner, I gotta earn that business and I have to earn it until the day it closes, right? So your conversion ratios are gonna be a little bit different. You can look them up. There's tons of stats and you can kind of choose which ones you want. I would tell you, I can just kind of give you some general rule of thumbs and you can choose to do what you like. Listing closed to listing sold, I would use an 80 to 90% close ratio. So that's from the time we get a property listed and under contract to the time it actually closes, right? Listings set to listings met to listings signed, somewhere in there, probably from From listings met to listings signed, depending on your presentation skills, how much confidence you go in there, what you're really nailed down, you're probably looking at about a two-thirds ratio, 2 to 3. So 2 out of every 3 you actually meet with should actually sign. Now, I would do a listing appointment set to listing appointments met, depending on your source, either a 2 to 3 or 1 to 3 ratio. Right? I know that if I'm calling expired, I know if I'm calling FSBOs right now, everybody's calling FSBOs, but not as many as you think. So I don't want to put that in your head either. But I know that from the time I set the appointment to the time I actually get there, there's a much bigger chance of somebody else swooping in there and getting the listing as opposed to someone in my database or someone in my sphere. Does that make sense? Buyer closed to buyer sold. I mean, again, I think somewhere in there, a 2 out of 3 ratio is probably a pretty solid number. But you can look that up. You can change the percentages as you like. I just wouldn't go on 100% ratio, no matter how talented you are. And then, of course, all of your, units sold, units closed, total volume closed, all that stuff. Everybody good here with this part so far?
Yeah.
Any questions? And how am I doing so far? Am I going into enough detail? This is working?
Yeah.
Making sense? Okay, keeping it moving, okay. Because the reality is, we're not gonna sit down here and business plan this on our own, right? That's our responsibilities as individuals and business owners to make sure we're putting together a true business plan in detail. All right, second half business plan, part 4, new sales strategies. So Matt, we were talking about this a little bit before, making adjustments, where do you change, whatever that is. So right now, again, I want you to look back at your first 6 months of business, right? If you haven't been in business for 6 months, just focus on the top 3 things you want to double down on, that you want to be your main sources of business. But for the people who have been in business, look at what your top 3 sources are. At least, and what is working, right? This is where we're trying to figure out what is working right now. Where did my last buyers come from? Where am I getting the most opportunities, right? Is it through networking? Is it through cold calling and FSBOs? Is it through doing client events, right? Do we get the most return on investment from client events? And whatever that is, double down on what's working right now. Now is not a time to change and to start messing around with different things. Chris Schumann was in here the other day and he was talking about a different way to do golden letters. Well, how are your golden letters working right now? Are you doing golden letters right now? Because if you are, then make an adjustment and double down on them. If you're not doing golden letters right now, don't see that as an opportunity. Oh, he was saying it, so let me throw this into the business on top of other stuff that's already working. Double down, make sure you're squeezing every single thing you can out of what's working right now. Other things to double down on right now, your time, right? When we're talking about this. So if cold calling's working, how much time are you spending on it? Can you double down on that? Can you add another hour? Can you add another 20 minutes to your calls, your database calls? What resources are we accessing, right? Can we improve on our listing presentation? Are we squeezing everything out of it that we need from our listing presentation? Are we crystal clear on it? Could you walk into any house today and give your pitch like that without even having to think about it? If the answer is no, you might want to think about that. And if you don't have what you need, find the resource, because guess what? We have it. And if we don't have the one that you like, somebody else does. There is so much free stuff out there. You don't need to go pay for all this stuff. Tap into what's free, make it your own, and own it. Once you own it, then you can make adjustments, right? We talk about scripts and dialogues, and I hear it all the time. Sounds like a robot, doesn't sound like me, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you, someone who's been practicing scripts for probably 8 years, I'm still practicing them every day. I'm still trying to get better at them. I'm still finding new things. But I started with what the basic script was. I'm writing it out right now every single day. I'm on day 21. I'm rehearsing it. I'm saying it out loud. Guys, these are the things, if we want to win this year, we have to get better at. Our competition is not practicing these things, guys. We don't need to be perfect. We don't need to be the best. We just need to be better than the others. We just need to be a little bit better. It's really not even that much. So skills and resources, right? So again, resources, what classes are you taking? What are you putting between your ears? Who are you learning from? And I would even write in here, before moving on, can you say, have you honestly done everything you can to get the most out of this source? All right, so now the next step, part 5, right, is adding a new source. So we just talked about, don't add any new sources, that's it, leave it, leave it, leave it. But what's something maybe you put on your business plan or your goals in the beginning of this year that you really wanted to implement? Maybe it is golden letters, maybe it's doing more open houses, maybe it's, I mean, doing open house is probably not a great example, but maybe it's farming, and hybrid farming is something you plan to do, but you just haven't gotten around to it. Put it on your calendar for another time. Put it for the beginning of the 4th quarter, put it for the beginning of next year. And what that's gonna do, one, it's gonna keep you aware of it and remind you that that's something you wanted to implement. But what it's also going to do, it's gonna take it out of your head. And that, to me, when it comes to these sources and what we're doing and shiny object syndrome, listen, I'm the worst. Ash will tell you. She's keeping me grounded every single day. I'm lucky to have her. But if we know that there's something that we really, maybe it's a YouTube channel, maybe it's something you really wanted to implement, put it out for, 90 days, 180 days, put it somewhere in the future. It's out of your head. So when it comes into your head and you're like, oh man, I really want to do that, you're gonna say, oh no, but that's okay, because I know I'm gonna get to that. I know that I'm gonna find time to do that. Make sense? All right. Next, for anybody who's got a clean sheet of paper, we're gonna do the expense management exercise. All right. Expenses. Us realtors love to spend money on stuff that don't ever look at it. So this is what I'd like you to do.
No, I got it.
A, B, and C. Yes, that's.
They are.
Presentation, put something like that.
In front of everybody. All right, cool. So in column A, I want you to write necessary expenses. These are things that have a return. Anything that's in this column, you can confidently look at and say, this has brought me money in this year. Right? And what you should be asking yourself is, if I removed this, would I lose money? Necessary expenses. Next is miscellaneous or discretionary costs. So these are things that they help, right? But we're not really sure if they're actually returning any kind of money for us, right? So for example, say you host an open house and you put $100 into a Facebook ad, right? You run that Facebook ad, but then you realize that the open house, or when you look back on it, well, you're not really sure if the people who are coming to the open house, how are they getting here? Did they hear about the open house from a Facebook ad or a social media ad? Or did they follow the sign, or did they see it on the MLS, right? So that's just an example of something, right? So sure, we can draw on some leads, but it's hard to measure. And this is stuff that we need to really think about, right? Well, you got something in mind?
Oh, no,
Oh,
I was just
okay.
thinking about things I spend money on.
That's kind of like the
Red light.
face on the shopping cart.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify, right? It's hard to tell, is this something? And then that should also make you think, whenever you're hosting an open house, whenever you're finding a source of business, somebody calls in and says, hey, I'd like to do business with you. Are you asking them, hey, where'd you hear about me? Right? Where'd you find me? Yeah, but
That's a number you should be tracking.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. And I would challenge you to go one deeper, right? Oh, I saw you on social media. Okay, great. Which platform?
Yeah.
Did you see me on an ad, or did you see me on, maybe not right in that initial conversation, but you want to be able to track these things, because then we know where our money should be going. And then C, I think we can all know what this is. Yeah, what we can live without.
Did you say really? No, you just say like a waste.
Those items are items you can cut right away. Right? And I mentioned in the beginning, I run profit first system. That's our financial system is a profit first system. That's gonna be another class. Either next quarter or the beginning of next year, but then what we wanna do is we wanna take these expenses and we wanna say, okay, we know this, we're cutting out. Right? We know this we're gonna keep because it's working and it's bringing in money. So what we need to do is we need to set an hour, 2 hours, depending on your expenses, and we need to say, okay, is everything here going here, or are we cutting it? Right? Is this working? Is something that's in here? I'm not really sure, so I gotta find out. And once we find out, is it working or is it not? If it is working, great, keep it. If it's not working, cut it.
How long do you think we should try it out for?
Depends what it is.
Yeah.
Depends what it is. I mean, and I think that's, again, going back to like. What we're implementing, what we're doubling down on, what we're not, right? Like. We started off this year and we said, okay, these are the three things, these are our three pillars, right? The GPS and 411. So these are our three pillars of business. We're giving it 6 months. And we're gonna stick to these for 6 months because again, we're so often let's do a little bit here, do a little bit there, do a little bit there, and nothing actually works. We end up just throwing money away. And I'm guilty of it too. I'm right there with you guys. So we need to get crystal clear on what our expenses are, especially in a shifting market. Every dollar is going to count. Right? And we want to be in this for the long haul, right? We want to survive that dip so that we can come out on the other end and just crush it. Just another rule of thumb, if you can't determine if it's profitable, you probably shouldn't be doing it. So I don't know if that helps answer that question. Okay. Everybody good on that? Any questions on this? And one tip I'll give you with this part, or just kind of cutting expenses in general, a real like safe, fail-proof way to do this, cancel your credit card. Get new, don't cancel it, I don't mean just cancel it. Get a new card with new numbers. Because what's gonna happen, all those subscriptions that you put on your card that you're not even sure are coming out, you kind of forgot about. Now they're gonna be reaching out to you, hey, you forgot to pay us. Damn, I didn't even know you were there. I don't have to pay you anymore. It's a very easy way to just be like, we're done. And let everything come to the top. It's for me, I found that easier than kind of sitting down. You're more likely to miss stuff. So hopefully that's helpful to somebody. All right, guys, part number 6. Part number 6 is your new morning schedule. Who here is a morning person? Wow, okay. More hands than I thought. Who believes that there's such a thing as a morning person? Because I'll tell you, I believe for a long time, let's see, I just turned 36. So for 33 years of my life, I was not a morning person. My dad said, oh God, my brothers could tell you stories. My dad used to wake up the whole house screaming at me, trying to get me up. And I would not get up for school until it's like I knew. It's like my body had this clock that knew exactly when I had to get up to exactly make it on time. So I again, I'm not gonna say you are or you aren't. I believe that I believe in life in general, when you label yourself as something, that is who you will be. And when you can remove those chains and you can remove those labels and you can identify why you're doing this every single day, it becomes a little bit easier. And I believe that if you can just focus a little bit, just 1% better every single day, you can get rid of that thing that tells you you are or you aren't anything. Okay. So one other thing, I always use this analogy because throughout this journey of breaking free, and I'm not even saying I am a morning person. I still hate getting up in the morning, but it used to go like this. When I decided, okay, I need to get up in the morning, right? I need to start figuring this out. I read Miracle Morning, in case anybody is interested. And think of a pendulum, right? That goes back and forth. And I'm going to bring up a pendulum later. But if you were to work on becoming a morning person and it's going well, right? It would go well for a day, a week, whatever. And then I'd fall back hard, man. And I'd be sleeping late again. And then I'd say, no, I got to do this. And what would have happened eventually is that pendulum would get closer and closer to the middle. So all of a sudden, my flow between being a terrible morning person and becoming a better morning person got tighter and tighter until, yeah, I still fall off, guys. There's still times where I wake up, not when I want to, but I know that I can get back on. And now that window gets shorter, so just a little something to share with you guys. In the morning, you should be generating business. It's really just that simple. There's a reason why this schedule goes to 11:30, and then there's nothing after that. It's really not much more complicated than that. In the afternoon is when we should be client servicing, right? I don't have some great schedule really to share with you, because the reality is you need to create your own. My schedule is gonna look different than your schedule is gonna look different than your schedule. I don't have kids. You guys with kids, that schedule is gonna look different. 100%. Those with older parents who need to help them out, that schedule is going to look different. But what we know is if we win the morning, we win the day. What happens after 11:30? Who cares? That could be a complete whatever. It will take care of itself. But if we don't do our morning every single day and we're not generating business, we know that 90 days from now, we're not gonna have a paycheck. Think about it. The clients that you're servicing today, think of any client that you have today that you're probably itching. Oh, I hope this guy hurries up. I gotta get back to this person. I gotta call him. I gotta show them the point. I gotta see. Where did that business come from? And when did it come from there? How long ago did you pick up that client? Or what activities did you do that allowed you to pick up that client? They were probably 90 days. Inspections, closings, showings, all of that is a result of something you did 90 days ago. Again, we talked about accountability, right? Build accountability, find your who's that are gonna help you navigate this stuff. It's not easy. 100%. I text Nalini every morning before 8:30. I'm here. I'm here. And you know what she does? She has a streak tracker going for me. Man, I don't want to lose that streak. So just a couple of things.
Gamify it.
Huh?
You gamify it.
You gamify it, yeah, whatever it is. You know, I'll say this, if we want something we've never had, we have to do the things that we've never done. Also, I want to point out there's a difference between your morning routine and your morning schedule. Right, your morning routine, I'll give you a little idea of this is what my morning routine looks like. So I get up at 5 a.m. I go right downstairs and I hit the treadmill. I stretch or meditate or whatever workout that is. I do that for about 45 minutes to an hour. This is my ideal schedule, by the way. I'm not saying this happens every single day. Then I do my savers, which is silence, affirmations, visualization or dreams. Exercise I've already gotten out of the way. Reading I've already gotten out of the way because I listen to podcasts while I'm working out. And then I scribe, I write, I journal. Now, there's things I do more and less, whatever. Then I eat a healthy breakfast, or I go up and shower. Then I eat a healthy breakfast. Then I try to spend some time with Ash, with our family, right? We try and do a little bit of that. And then we're off for the day and I come into the office. And I leave for the office around 7:30. And that's my morning routine. Now my morning schedule starts. 8:30, I'm on the phones. I'm making calls. I'm trying to generate new business. Start with FSBOs, right? Then start with expires. Then circle prospect. If there's no new FSBOs, no new expires, I'm circle prospecting, calling around neighborhoods, trying to find for my buyer. Then I do, from there, I think I take then we have our meeting, our team meeting. Then we go into our database, DTD2. We start following up with our database.
So Pete,
Yeah.
you've mentioned a couple times DTD2. Does everybody in here know what that means?
Yes.
Yeah, so DTD2 is a really systematic approach of touching your database 36, a part of the 36 touch plan, right? So talk to Fred. Fred will be able to break that down
I
for
have a
you.
copy of it that I can send out. It's based on the week of the year, who you should be reaching out to.
My last name.
Yeah, my last name. It's got all, again, yeah, find the resources, right, guys? Don't reinvent the wheel. There are resources out there. So if you say, oh, I want to do that, find someone in this office, in this room, reach out to Fred, leadership. Hey, this is what I want to do. Who should I be talking to about this, right? He's got the action plan. And that's, again, taking that 500 contacts in your database and breaking it down into daily activities. All right, guys, so we're gonna hit the gas.
Delta, Tango, Delta.
It's
Yeah.
to the database twice, what it stands for, DTD2.
All right, so we're gonna hit the gas pedal a little bit.
It's written on the top.
All the lingo.
We're gonna hit the gas pedal a little bit here and take you guys through the rest of this this plan. So here at the bottom, you'll notice that it says new morning schedule weekend, right? And that's right underneath new morning schedule weekday. And I just want you guys to think about this. What would it look like if you worked one extra Saturday a month? What would it look like if you worked 2 extra Saturdays a month? Right? Treated that day just as you do your regular day. Think about your competition. Do you think your competition is working those Saturdays the same way you're working on a Tuesday? No, they're not. Most of them are not. And what I will also say, just a quick little simple math, right? 52 weeks in a year. We worked 2 a month. That's 26 weeks. You've almost gained a full month of work on your competition. Maybe you do a half day, maybe you start a little bit later. I would strongly encourage everybody to really take that into consideration, especially if you're not on track for your goals, right? Because here's what we know about our goals, and I meant to start with this actually, is 1 of 3 things are true, guys. You're either in this room, you set your plan, and you are on track for your goals this year, right? Which means you should increase them by 30%. Why? Because we know that agents who are at or on track for their goal at the midway mark take their foot off the gas and they end up missing their goal. You're on top of your goal. You're ahead of your goal. You're having a great year. You need to identify what's working and double down. We talked about that. And the third is you're behind on your goal, which a lot of agents are this year, right? So what do we do when we sit down with this business plan? Do we just keep pushing through that goal that we set at the beginning of the year, which now feels like, I don't know, I know, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm not willing to do the things that it takes to hit that goal, because that's really what it comes down to. So we make adjustments. Adjust it down, make a goal that is still a stretch, still going to require you to put in some extra work, but bring it down just a touch or where it needs to be for you to feel good about it again. So that we're doing this again next year. All right, part 8, second half business plan. Let's see. So here we're talking about each month what you can do to your database to add value, right? So plan it out. Stop just figuring out stuff, oh wow, it's it's about to be August 1st and I didn't even send anything out for July. Let me find something real quick that I can send out to everybody, or just not do it at all, right? Look at national holidays, right? It was just the National Ice Cream Day. So we're doing a fun little thing for National Ice Cream Day. You can do, National Coffee Day, send a, whatever, look at what you can and can't do, but, could you send a $5 gift card to someone? Could you pay for someone's coffee? Could you do something, right? Always check compliance, always check with the rules, but what are some fun things that you can do to build awareness around different things in the community, and plan it out, right? This is your time now. You can say, okay, July, August, September, October, right? October we know is Halloween, November is fall, December is the holidays, right? This is a great time to be planning this stuff out and start putting that plan. And what I want you to think about when you're thinking about how you can add value to your database, who here has received an email, and maybe you've sent one out? I know I have. Time to set your clocks back, right? You guys have all gotten that email from a lender or a title person or something. How much value did that bring you guys? Did you guys actually go and, oh, thank God, I got this email. Oh man, I almost forgot to go set my clock. Oh, look at that, it did it for me. So think of those things that are gonna separate you and actually bring value to your database. Okay. Let's see, what else do we got? And last but not least, part 10, social media. Well, we got social media expert or soon to be social media expert. I love it. All right, so stop posting haphazardly, guys. I'm so guilty of this. And you think of something and you just post it. And you think of, wow, your creative juices are flowing today because now you got 3 posts. You haven't posted in a month, but today you got 3 of them. That's not going to do it, right? Take those and spread them out. Plan it, right? Take your Sundays, take your Friday afternoons, take an hour, take 2 hours. Plan out what you're going to post Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Write out a calendar. Google a social media calendar for realtors. Go to ChatGPT if you don't know what that is. There's YouTube videos. And what?
Keller Williams actually has a playbook for social media posts and how to break up your posts on a weekly basis. Contact me, I will send it to you.
And seriously, there's so many resources, guys, that we're not thinking about. Yeah.
On ChatGPT, just a really quick tip. something that's been helping me, like with posting social media, is putting out blog posts with chat GPT can write for you. You can say, write a blog post about downsizing or upsizing, that's like 1,500 words, 10 seconds, you have a whole blog post. And then I even check to see if it's copying anybody else, like with those systems I can check if it's plagiarized, 100% not plagiarized.
Yep.
Like it's completely,
Yep.
it's really freaky, but it's not easy.
Yeah, and if maybe you wanted to do that a little bit differently, you could on Sunday, right? You could say, maybe you've used it like this before. Write me 4 days of social media posts for the next week or whatever, for a realtor, right? And now you can still be creative and do your own thing. But you don't have to think about it, because that's like the hardest part for me. I don't know if you guys would agree that it's like, oh, what do I post? What do I post? And then what happens? We get a brilliant idea and we forget about it. How many times that's happened to me? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna post this, it's gonna be great, I'm gonna get 1,000 million views, likes, and all that stuff. But don't be attached to the results. Just keep doing that.
So one thing,
Yeah,
who in here feels that they need to increase their social media? So that means you'll be here tomorrow at 11 o'clock for Betty Russo, who's doing the class on social media.
I'm trying to get online, it happens.
Well, I would
It's very
definitely-
good.
It's also gonna be zoomed and recorded.
I would definitely try and check that out. If you haven't seen what she does some awesome stuff on YouTube. She's got her branding down. She's got, she's really going. And what's funny about social media, or interesting or unique, or a way to think about it, is you guys have to understand you're not just gonna post today and become a star tomorrow. And you shouldn't even really be trying to become a star. You're just trying to think of your social media as another database. How are you adding value to them on a weekly, monthly, daily, whatever it is basis? Because we really have 3 databases, if you think about it, not to now create a whole other thing where you have to go and create all this other stuff, but just a different way to look at it, right? You have your sphere of influence in your past clients, right? The people who know you, like you, trust you. If you called them, they would say, hey, Pete, they know who I am. And past clients. I would hope all of your past clients know you at this point, but some may be suspect. Your exchange database, right? People who maybe you were at the coffee shop and he was like, yeah, I'm thinking about buying a home. Great. So you don't really have a relationship. They don't know you, but you've exchanged information, right? They should be getting touched differently. And then you have your social media. Social media is an extension of your past clients, your sphere of influence, and everybody, but they are their own people. So just a different way to maybe look at it. There's so many different ways to break down your business. So don't take that and that's gospel now, and that's the way it all has to be. But that's something that I heard recently that I thought was interesting.
You could do the D2 for your social media following too.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
You could. And then last but not least, part number 11, right? Make a new vision board. Review your vision board and be specific. Make changes to what you did originally. Cross off things that you already crossed off. But don't just put, I'm going to buy a new car, right? Don't just put, I'm going to take a vacation. Where are you going? How much is it going to cost? What excursions are you going to do? Which resort are you going to? How much did I say? How much it's going to cost, right? You want to buy a new car, right? Maybe you want that Mustang I talked about earlier, right? Go to the dealership, check it out, price it out, see how much it costs. Make sure you really like it. Maybe you get in and you're like, this thing sucks, I don't want to live in it, but you wouldn't, not a Mustang. Take a picture of yourself in the car. Go for a test drive. See what it's like to feel and experience these things, right? And that is going to take your vision board. And like I said earlier, when you're nervous, when you have call reluctance, when you're not sure if somebody's going to reject you, look at that vision board. Think of the people on the other page here. Who benefits from you living your unreal life? There are people in this world, in this room. This is something Ed Milet said, and this really stuck with me. The people who need you the most, who are waiting for you to become the person that you're destined to be, you may have not even met them yet. They could be nieces, nephews, grandkids, people who just show up in your life. And are you going to do everything you can to be the best version of yourself so that you can give back to those people when they need you most? That's what's driving me right now, so. And I wanna leave you with one last thing as we're just about to hit the numbers. I heard something yesterday that I thought that really resonated with me, and again, Matt, I heard you say, it's almost information overload sometimes, and it's like. You don't know what to implement and what to do, but I would encourage you to keep listening, but just maybe audit what you're listening to or looking at, right? And so. I listened to this podcast yesterday, and the reason I say this, because sometimes you can be listening, looking for one thing. And get something completely different and something really profound out of it. So going back to the pendulum idea, right? Now, the idea behind a pendulum, right, for anyone who doesn't know, is if you swing it all the way to the one side, you will get equal resistance and force back to the other side, right? We all know those balls that go back and forth and they hit each other, right? And that moves energy back and forth. So we have two options every single day when we wake up and we approach our business. We know that if we approach the pain, right? We talk about pain versus pleasure a lot in this office. We approach the pain and we push through the pain and we do the hard things that we don't want to do, but we know we should do. That force is going to push us right back into pleasure, right? So in order to get the things that we want, we need to chase that pain, because when we're chasing that pain, that rejection, that fear, baby, it's coming right back around and it's going to be better than you could ever have imagined. Now, I would also ask you to keep in mind, the opposite is also true. If we choose not to chase the pain and we choose to chase the pleasure instead, it's coming right back around and you're going to be experiencing that pain as a result of the pleasure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed this. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys online. Even a minute early.
That.
Yeah.
Guys, I'll be around if you guys have any questions. You guys.